Does Kentucky's Commonwealth Accountability Testing System, or CATS, require proficiency for all in 2014? Welcome again. Since parts 1 and 2 of our program were created, Kentucky's CATS assessment has experienced some important changes. These changes automatically became official in mid-April, and they are sufficiently significant that we are adding 2 more parts to this series on the real goals of CATS. Part 4, the last part of the series, will examine another scoring change, this one impacting the scoring of individual academic subjects that further erodes the grading standards. This part is still in production, but it should be available shortly. In the program you are viewing now, which is part 3 of the series, I examine how new changes will impact the accountability scoring for each school at the close of each CATS biennium between now and 2014. You will learn that the new CATS scoring procedures further erode school accountability and also have the additional unfortunate effect of delaying assistance to failing schools that need extra help now. To start our process, we need to examine the CATS growth chart again. For part 3 of our program, we're going to look at a CATS growth chart for a different school. This is the Valley Traditional High School in Jefferson County. As you will recall from part 1 of our program, the construction of a CATS growth chart begins with a baseline score. Now, back when CATS started, the Valley Traditional High School's baseline score was set at 51.7 for the year 2000 baseline point. 2 other numbers that are critical to the construction of our CATS growth chart are the goal line score expected in 2014 and the assistance line score for 2014. For this school, those scores are 99.5 for the goal line and 79.5 for the assistance line. As you will also recall from our previous program, the small black dots on the graph show the school's score for each 2-year biennium period. We should note that this particular school is in the assistance zone for the 2005-2006 biennium. It is one of the lowest performing high schools in the state of Kentucky. Now let's use the recently adopted rules in the new regulations to construct a new CATS growth chart for Valley High School for the biennium period from 2008 to 2014. We'll start with the non-adjusted accountability index that this school received in 2007. That was 61.9. Next, because Valley High School's CATS scores for 2008 are not available, we're going to make an assumption. We're going to assume that the scores do not change for 2008. That is not a bad assumption to make. You see, in 2005, Valley High School actually scored a 62.3 on CATS, and 1 year later its score dropped rather notably in 2006 to only a 58.2. So our assumption that the score will remain flat in this school is reasonable given that we do not have the actual scores available. Now, given the assumption that Valley's score will remain at 61.9 in the 2007-2008 biennium, this becomes our new baseline score, and we can start to construct our CATS growth chart. We begin by plotting the new baseline score against the year 2008 as shown here. Next, just as we did when we did our original CATS growth chart construction in part 1, we plot a horizontal line to the next biennium period closeout in 2010. Finally, we continue our line by going from the 2010 point up to the year 2014 assistance line score, which is unchanged from where it was under the old CATS program. Finally, we draw in our new goal line. It starts in the year 2008 at the baseline score, and it continues on up to the unchanged goal line score requirement in 2014. The result of all of this is a new CATS growth chart for the Valley Traditional High School. Now, we left the color schemes in from the old CATS growth chart so you can see by way of comparison the changes that have resulted from rescoring CATS in 2008. Let's talk about the implications of those changes with the new rescored CATS. First of all, it's going to be easier for a school to stay out of the sanction zone, the assistance zone, all the way out to the final year of 2014. Secondly, it's going to be easier for schools to reach the goal line in every year except for 2014. The net effect is we have further reduced the CATS standards. Let's use our new CATS growth chart to show you exactly how schools will have a somewhat easier time of meeting standards and staying out of sanctions. First of all, notice here that until 2014, a lower score will keep a school out of the assistance zone. In addition, notice on this slide that until 2014, much lower scores reach the meets goal region. Much lower scores all the way out until the last biennium in 2014. But please note that there are absolutely no changes in the final 2014 end points for our CATS growth chart. The 2014 goal for this school is still a 99.5, and the assistance line threshold for this school remains at 79.5, just as it was under the old CATS program. Let's talk about some of the impacts of the lowered assistance line. Schools that really do need to be identified and need assistance won't be identified under the rescored CATS until much, much later. This will deny those schools assistance until it's too late to help them for the 2014 closeout of the CATS. Next, let's consider the impact of those unchanged scores for both the goal line and the assistance line targets in 2014. What are those impacts? The answer is that because the end goals in 2014 have not been changed, it still remains possible for schools with extraordinarily low proficiency rates in individual academic subjects to avoid all accountability all the way out to the end year of CATS in 2014. These are the same statistics that we showed you in Part 2, and they still apply. It's possible for a school to avoid all sanctions in 2014, even under the new CATS program, with proficiency rates as low as 39.13% for mathematics and 0.0% for on-demand writing. Is that the promise you thought you were being given for your tax dollars when CURA was enacted in 1990? Unfortunately, the standards cutting in CATS are even more extensive than the resetting of the goal line and assistance lines that we've talked about in this part of our program. Scoring on individual CATS academic tests actually got easier beginning in 2007. Look for our discussion on that in Part 4 of this program. Let's review what we have discussed in this Part 3 of our program. The new CATS changes further reduce standards. It's easier for a school to stay out of sanctions. It's easier for a school to meet its CATS goal. And there's no change in the very low academic proficiency rates required to stay out of sanctions in 2014. So let's close this part of our program with a question. Will your child's school escape all accountability in 2014 with proficiency rates of 39% in math and 0% proficiency in writing? So once again, it appears that the people running CATS are quite willing to reduce standards in order to create an image of progress. This serves our students, parents, and citizenry in general very poorly. Now, keep a lookout for Part 4 of our series, which will explain another new change to the CATS program that further inflates results.